Hello, welcome to part 7. Yeah, part 7. And good morning to everyone. Hope you all slept well, or if you're still up, because I know how that is. No sleep and all that. Hope you had a good night, enjoying the night, morning, whatever the time is. But yeah, I will just continue to do what I usually do. And that will be a little boring sometimes, because I try to look for everything, so I'm not even gonna say sorry for it, but it is what it is. I do look for everything in the game, so it takes time. I do enjoy the game. I'll just see what I need to do first. Just rest. But yeah, enjoy and enjoy your day.
certainly why things are frozen over.
Malfunctioning, then?
Indisputably. The ice buildup must be causing a cyclical localized reaction.
Sure. I'll take care of it.
Good idea. Swampy environs and intense cold is bad even for Enclave parchment. Best to lower the risk.
have to admit, sometimes in Modernist, I miss waypoints. Oh. It's like, which direction should I go? That way kinda looks right. Abracadabra.
Already warming up. Hope I didn't damage the priceless artifact too much.
You can't make an omelette, as they
When I
say.
reach out and touch it.
A lot of notes here. Water damage from the cold and melt, though. Let's see. Materials. Huh. That's how you visualize a pattern. Lots of marginal notes. These have to be from Lucia. Ah, she mentions a flood in the later passages.
Perfect. We should check her other workshop, too.
We?
You! Please?
I'm on it. The cold sunk right into the stones here.
This is why we use wattle and daub back home. Insulates properly.
Just give me 1 minute. I'm just gonna grab a Red Bull and I'll be right back. I'm a living commercial for Red Bull. It is what it is. I'll be right back. And yeah, that's the sound of the... not the men working down the chain lock. It's the sound of the men drinking to keep awake. Sorry for the noises. Okay, check map. We use rest. Thank you for waiting. That was one Red Bull down. Oh, and my country stopped to sell my favorite brand. A green box. I don't know what's in. But suddenly they stopped to sell it. It's like I got 4 left, and I'm like, should I even drink them? Should I save them a year and sell them? We'll see if people, when they can't get a hold of things, they pay stupid amounts. Okay, pensioner. No, I haven't been here. Boy. I'm gonna check one thing. I think it's the weather. So I'm just gonna go back and see if the weather change. Double check. Flash freeze. I'm just gonna sleep. Sure, I've been there without guys. That's gonna say time.
there's a small compartment here, hidden in the statue, already open and empty.
That was not my intention. But I can hear some. So, yeah, it's a treasure or collectible.
The record said this place was registered to our Enchantress of Interest. Lucy. It sure doesn't look like a saboteur or smuggler's den. On the workings of Archons by L. de Crassus. Seems promising. Dom?
Certainly topical. There were references to it in those notes you found, come to think of it. Definitely bring it back. Another piece of the puzzle. Your mantle.
One step closer at least. Slowly progress.
Any luck with the materials we gathered from Lucia's workshops?
Yes. I'll let Sev fill you in.
We started with the book, which was painfully dry and highly theoretical.
Unsurprising. The Enclave was notoriously tight-lipped about the construction of the arcs.
The book was still useful, as it contained a number of craft-specific terms, shorthands and annotations, all critical. Referencing the book clarified the notes.
Without it, they bordered on deranged rant, especially at the end.
Sort of a window into her thinking.
We suspect Lucia spent a long time in isolation while working on these.
She covered many topics, but the most prominent was her work into the Flood.
Who exactly was Lucia? It seems like she had a lot going on.
Brilliant, but disturbed. She harbored a severe hatred of Enclave leadership, bordering on obsession.
Reams of fiercely colorful text, just to say some very rude things, especially about the Eye, their leader.
She was also, at one point, one of the most respected enchanters in the Enclave. She worked on something she refused to name, but was clearly of deep significance to the Enclave itself. Called it the source of all our problems.
Sadly, she only danced around that subject, and never offered details.
We know the Hearthsiders spent years working in Denevron after the Surge. Why do we think Lucia ended up so far from the capital?
It's evident she disagreed with the leaders of the Enclave and gathered others around her who agreed. There's talk of several meetings taking place in the Mire, most likely to be away from prying eyes.
Called her group the Verdant Minds. Very planty.
I like it. It's poetic.
Her workshop was a little brisk, even for my tastes. Any idea why?
She was fascinated with Enclave technology, specifically the dismantling, disruption, and repurposing of it.
Remember our talk about the aeroliths and how they could influence the weather? When the effect is accidentally concentrated, it can be quite intense. We suspect she was experimenting with the aerolith in relation to the floods. She predicted their start.
How do those devices I found with her mark on them tie into all of this?
In her final notes, her obsession shifted from the Enclave's leadership to the miasma flood. She was determined to find a way to stop it. On one hand, she looked to the aeroliths as a mitigation. Could they repel the miasma?
In the end, her answer was no. And so she turned to disruption. We think the arcs were tests. Could she shut them down?
And if so, could she shut down something larger?
She was clearly successful at least once. Maybe twice if we count the one outside the Veil.
Indeed, and when we're doing more general questions, that is what we must talk about.
All intriguing information. But we should focus on the Flood. Does she have an answer for us?
Partially. This is the design.
Her research led her to one conclusion. To stop the floods, she needed to disrupt a barrier of some sort.
This confirms our theory from earlier. She's talking about the barrier established by Asylum.
Her design is detailed and specific. The device it would create inverts the flow of magic in enchanted objects, disrupting them for a time.
We think the devices we found on the Arks were prototypes, small experiments to determine efficacy and duration.
So what's the catch? If the floods are still happening, clearly she didn't build one.
Lucia's thimble, as she calls it, requires some highly specialized components. It has to withstand considerable magical flow, far more than what's produced by an ark.
It's like how mass scales exponentially. Just because you can build a scale model of an aqueduct doesn't mean the real thing can support its own weight.
If, and it is a very big if, we could find those components, we could construct Lucia's thimble. We have the expertise.
Give me a solid description, and we'll be rolling in parts, Dom.
I'll notify Casman to put an extension on the caravan. The other thing we'll need is a source of magical flame. Solar's mantle won't be enough by itself.
I can handle that part easily. Okay, so we have clear next steps. Just one more thing. What happened to Lucia?
The flood. Our best guess, at any rate. There's no sign of her. I am going to be poring through Lucia's notes for years.
Fascinating stuff.
Perhaps not to everyone, but she was a brilliant enchanter. It's not often I read a marginal comment accompanied with a lewd doodle and go, "Flames, that's brilliant."
I'm just gonna see if I can find a dragon and upgrade. I feel I'm a little behind. Yeah. I opt for look for a dragon.
Not to complain, but there's actually too much magic out here.
Like a thick fog when it really settles in.
got everything you needed from the Strand, Tom?
Absolutely. All part of the preparation. What I needed was just a byproduct. Nothing to prevent us weaving that strand into your mantle. Now, when you have the time, if you would do me the honor and please be the bearer of my surprise for her.
She is 10 steps or so away. It'll be rough, but I can handle it.
Hi. Something you need?
No, Sola. The question is there something you need? And the answer is a most majestic gift from a renowned artificer.
Well said, Bryn. Such energy.
It's beautiful. When did you have time to make a planishing hammer of all things?
Oh, I wouldn't know where to begin, love. But I did see you eyeing one several moons ago when we passed through Udea. I bought it quietly, and have been hoping to enchant it for some time. Our point was happy to oblige me with the materials needed.
That's really thoughtful. What kind of enchantment?
It applies a small spike of heat with each strike to smooth out the process, as it were. I've even wondered if something like cinder linen could catalyze higher heats, so each hammer in your collection could spike to exacting levels. The possibilities are endless. And lightweight. Keep your smithy even more portable.
Yes. Yeah, well, it's lovely, but I don't know if we'll need a whole set of them. It must be challenging to make.
If it makes life on the road easier for you, it's worth the effort.
Well, maybe. We don't need to be on the road all the time.
But that's a weaver's life.
Not in the Enclave. Look, it's an absolutely lovely hammer, and I cannot wait to try it out. Bryn, look forward to the smoothest armor.
Yes, well, very good. I have some things I should sort out.
I keep thinking about how angry those notes were.
Lucia's?
Yes. The tone was acidic, and she clearly felt she'd been betrayed. Not in the general sense. It was personal. I just wish she'd been more clear about by whom.
That man.
Everything okay?
Yes, it is. I'm probably making something out of nothing. I've just got a lot on my mind. Oh, gods! I forgot to thank him for the hammer. I'd better go do that.
No, too weak. The only way to strengthen a power is through active harvest.
right?
Yeah. There's just oh, and a letter, encoded like the others.
Can't wait to work it out.
So, the letter. I'm prepared for bad news.
How did you know?
Mysteries that start with dead bodies tend to resolve in tragedy. That, and the tear stains.
Is that what that was? Yes, well, there's a lot to cover. We have the cache itself and our scrounging siblings.
We should at least give you the high-level details on both. Where do you want to start?
Talk to me about the supplies.
They did astonishing work. If I weren't sure they're both gone, I'd hire them.
Indeed, a robust collection, including several enchanted objects we barely recognize.
They had a keen eye for things that could decay and took care to preserve them.
You two sound giddy.
If there's one thing Lane and I are passionate about, it's preservation of rare objects.
Were there any hints of more of these?
As far as we can tell, this was it. Their motherlode.
It's impressive one runner could gather this much, frankly.
Have you been working your magic, Casmin?
Obviously. Thank you for bringing everything back so carefully.
Anything of note?
Yes, but let's save that until we've done the other questions.
Mysterious. That's enough about the cache.
Sure.
What did the final note say?
Yes, right. It was a farewell. One sibling disappeared. The runner.
I thought the runner of the pair was the one we found.
So did we. But this last message was a farewell to his sister. Apparently the Grumpole...
Really?
I know. But apparently their boss had been ordered to stop wasting resources on the search.
And so our hauler left this farewell, hoping his sister might find it on the off chance she was alive.
He was going to remove all their other messages so their plan wouldn't be found out.
We postulate he was on his way to do that, when
the flood caught him.
These people, however many are left, They've really been through it. They might really need our help. They're still organized and have a command structure, but it sounds dysfunctional.
Did we confirm they weren't actually stealing from the Enclave?
The letter seems genuine. I think their plan was to bring in a big haul.
It says a lot about the Hearthsiders that our siblings thought this would clear any suspicion.
How so?
The cloud of suspicion tells us they were in dire times, tightening the screws on their own people.
But bring in a big load and we trust you. Doesn't that sound a little like a bribe?
So you think our runners were dirty?
No. I think the system's dirty, and they're just stuck working through it.
I'm not going to say the name, but do we have any sense of who was giving their orders?
The Enclave's leader was called the Eye, a first of firsts, after a fashion. Elected from the masters of each craft, the High Smith, High Enchanter, and so on. Unfortunately, we don't have any details about their direct superior. I will spare you the name.
Is there anything we could do, do you think?
Sadly, no. But their story will live on in our chronicle.
Let's move on to something else.
Of course.
So, where do we go from here?
Good news. We compared notes with Dom. We found parts that will let us complete Lucia's thimble, from those schematics you decoded.
It has been a busy time. Solar will handle the assembly, of course.
I suppose the only other thing to say is... good job, Bryn.
Indeed. We have made progress in unraveling the shape of what the post-Surge society looks like in the Enclave. Further, these documents are invaluable to the historical record.
And maybe you'd put a couple souls to rest. Not to be sentimental.
All right. Let's go over everything we know so far.
We know that, for a time after the Surge, civilians continued to live in Tenebron until they were forced to evacuate the city. We're still not sure the cause.
Wherever the Hearthsiders went, they're still actively sending scouting groups to scavenge for supplies. From the uniform, the creeper who was watching Bryn sleep belongs to one of these groups.
We also know that a defensive procedure codenamed Asylum sealed access to the Enclave underground. This was done using a barrier almost exactly like the Veil.
Lucia, an ex-High Enchantress, opposed Asylum and began working on ways to sabotage it.
Her research forecasted that the barrier would cause the Enclave to flood with miasma. The very same flood that seems to have killed Lucia before she was able to finish her thimble.
But we have her design. It could disrupt Asylum's barrier.
So Lucia's thimble is the key to our survival.
It's less a key and more like a magical battering ram.
Whatever works.
What is it, Lane?
It's just... I've pored over all the documents we've compiled, and a concrete link between the evacuation plan and the underground is nowhere to be found. I can't shake the feeling we're missing something.
The Enclave destroyed a lot of information from their documents. Could that be why you can't find a link between Asylum and the evacuation?
I considered that. The Enclave may have hidden their location from Lucia.
Being a weaver isn't about being certain all the time. It's about taking calculated risks to carve a path forward. And regardless of the Hearthsider's location, disrupting the barrier is the only option to stop the flood.
You're right. I just hope that if we did miss something, it doesn't come back to bite us.
Even if it does, we will handle it.
That settles it. Bryn, it's time to use the thimble.
Do you suppose she liked it after all?
The hammer?
Yes, of course. I worry she didn't.
What lady doesn't dream of one day receiving a magic hammer? Actually, with Solar, that's probably true. Seriously, it was a very thoughtful gift.
I had thought so. I'm just a little surprised she didn't say thank you.
She remembered, just a little late.
A shame to lose such prodigious runners. They were really very good.
The Hearthsiders have had it harder than any of us expected.
Indeed. We shan't let their efforts go to waste. Lucia's thimble is within our reach thanks to them.
Thank you for your help with that, Bryn. You've a deft hand for flame magic. You can wear Sev's apprentice hat for one day. Also, Lucia knew what she was doing. This thimble was clearly designed to pair seamlessly with Enclave constructions.
Must be her experience as a high enchantress at work.
Based on Lucia's notes and what we discovered at the Bastion, this was custom designed to disrupt Asylum's barrier.
If it can stop the flood, we need to use it soon.
Agreed. We don't know how much time we have left.
The Enclave still has...
You know, there's one silver lining to the sad tale of our deceased runners.
What's that?
We know the Hearthsiders still have some advanced production capabilities. The materials they were gathering don't have much use for basic survival. Therefore, weapons, armor, and enchantments.
Any concerns about us claiming them?
None. They've been there long enough. Scavenger etiquette applies. These kinds of materials are too rare to let go to waste.
Our supply runners might be why there are so many crates gathered around the city.
Why do they reappear, though?
Dom and I have a theory. The arcs might still be partially functioning.
So, when they're not trying to kill me, they tidy up the place?
Like I said, a theory. But that was a big part of what they were built to do.
half-siders are scavenging their own city. Things must be dire.
I'm worried about them after that particular discovery.
You've a kind heart, Bryn. Though I'll stick to worrying about us, if you don't mind.
Good balance of protection and mobility. Nice to work on something a little lighter every once in a while. Not too heavy, not too light.
always do with a little heat.
Gardens. It was a must-see for visiting caravans.
Weavers and foreign dignitaries alike. The gardens were a pleasant backdrop to the trade negotiations that took place in Upper Denevra.
That console that looks like our scry should be the controls for the barrier. The thimble was built to interface with it.
Time to disrupt us. Great timing. I owe you one.
You need to come with me. All of you.
We mustn't cause a panic.
Sure. It's not like we had a dire supplies shortage on our hands before this happened.
What do I tell the High Enchanter? The Guild will want...
Enough. We won't discuss this further. Not in front of our guests. Identify yourselves.
Aurea Harpenay, or Silverbeak, as I'm known among Weaver circles. This is my band, and beside me is our acting point.
Bryn. And you are?
Khan Stunhild, Eye of the Enclave. My colleagues are the Spindle and the Axle, representatives of the Enchanting and Crafting Guilds. Who sent you?
Sent us?
Taza? Renland? Udea? The Enclave is the envy of the Maida for its magical prowess. Clearly one of those nations has finally grown a spine and decided to take it for themselves in our moment of weakness.
Moment? No one sent us. We came here by accident.
What kind of fool do you take me for? You expect me to believe that you bypassed our veil, infiltrated our loom gates, and breached asylum without a national power backing you?
When you put it that way.
This is a misunderstanding. We're Weavers, like you. There was a brief opportunity to enter the Enclave for the first time in decades, and we took it. Everything we've done since we arrived has been to uncover what happened here after the Surge. And to find you.
If that is true, have you really no inkling of the trouble you've caused?
No.
Your reckless conduct has unleashed an enemy that nearly destroyed us 27 years ago.
The Surgeborn. They first appeared a little over a decade after the Veil went up.
Where did they come from?
No one knows. But they arrived in the Underworks before making their way to the surface.
Where they left a trail of destruction in their wake and wreaked havoc on the Enclave.
Causing casualties to rise.
And so I called for a retreat here, saving countless lives. We sealed the Surgeborn in the Underworks for good. Until now.
Obviously, it was not our intention for this to happen, but it did. And for that, we're sincerely sorry.
Agreed. This was all an unfortunate mistake.
A lot of good your apologies are doing us now.
Look, Surgeborn or not, we had no choice but to remove the barrier. Though, I suppose we owe you thanks for warning us about the floods.
Who warned you?
You did.
Did we? I'll deal with you later.
While we can agree Arakim breached no-contact protocol, it has proven to be the right decision. The floods were growing worse, and now they have stopped. Even if fixing them has introduced a new problem.
One my band would be more than happy to help you solve.
Ha! Work together.
Sorry to interrupt, but you mentioned your last name earlier. Any relation to Shireen Harpenay?
She was my mother. You know who she is?
Of course! I mean, before my time, obviously. But she's still renowned in the Enchanting Guild. Her work is remarkable. There's a statue of her in Denevron, you know?
Oh. I can't believe she didn't mention that.
There is so much I'd love to ask you, but for now, Aurea comes from a long bloodline of outstanding and renowned weavers. Shouldn't that buy her band some grace?
All right. Your presence in the outskirts will be tolerated. Nothing more.
What about the Surgeborn?
What about them?
Shouldn't we work together to deal with them?
We could use the help.
The Surgeborn are a problem for anyone in the outskirts, not us. Cassidan's Hold is a fortress.
The scouts do head into the outskirts to scavenge for supplies.
We'll take our own precautions. Speaking of, we have pressing matters to attend to.
But...
Enough! My word is final.
Bryn, the one that led us here is clearly the one that warned us. Try to talk to him before we leave. Maybe he's willing to work with us.
Will do.
I'll never figure this out. If only she were here.
This can't be... right.
Hey, Arakim, was it?
Oh, just call me Arik.
Well, Arik, I never got a chance to thank you. You know, for grabbing me before I fell to my death.
I think you had it. Besides, I couldn't let you plummet into a chasm. The Eye is pretty peeved with me, but hey, that's just a bonus.
So, are you glad we're here?
I'm thrilled you're here.
I have to say, I'm surprised.
Oh, yeah. Sorry for all that cloak and dagger stuff earlier. Khan Stanild had me on strict orders not to make contact with your Weaver band. But it was the right call. From what I just saw, your presence here is having an impact.
How so?
Notice how the Axle took my side against the Eye earlier. That never happens. And the Spindle is as quiet as a mouse most of the time, but not today.
Aha. So these are big changes.
It might not sound like much, but they're excited you're here. Stanild can tell too. That's why he backed down so easily. And that's why I'm glad you're here.
You and the Eye don't seem to get along very well.
What gave it away? The mutual contempt. The Eye doesn't like anyone who shows initiative or challenges him. Unfortunately, those are my main qualities. And I suspect he perceives them in you, too.
Yeah, I didn't get the impression he's my biggest fan. Will you be in trouble for saving us?
I'd worry if he ever decided to get off his throne and do something about it. But he finds that throne very comfortable.
So you're not upset that I breached Asylum, like your colleagues?
I've been pushing to do something about the Surgeborn for years now. Setting them free wasn't great, but sealing them in the underworks indefinitely was never a good solution. Frankly, I think Khan Stanild is just annoyed you undid his one claim to fame. I guarantee he has no plans to do anything about the Surgeborn now that they're free.
You don't think he sees them as a threat?
He's got his head in the sand about a lot of things.
You seem awfully trusting of us, considering the terrible first impression we've made.
I was spying on you the first time we met, so let's call it even.
Sure. Maybe you know everything already then, but have you got any questions for me?
Just one. Why are you here?
Growing up, I saw the Enclave as a symbol of what Weavers lost after the Surge. After all, we have no home to return to, and we're pariahs in most nations. But the longer I'm in here, the more I realize how much your people have lost too, and still stand to lose. I'm here to help, however I can.
That is exactly what I was hoping you'd say. If that's truly what you want, then dealing with the Surgeborn is the first step. Ever since the Veil went up, our people have been in crisis. They've spent so long in it, they're afraid to do what it takes to get out. It doesn't help that some have benefited off that same crisis.
Who?
Who always benefits? The very top. Our leaders are too preoccupied with their own concerns to form a unified front against the Surgeborn.
Such as?
The Spindle is obsessed with getting the Arcs functional again. She believes that will help us regain control. And the Axle is too stressed about our supply shortage right now. But if their concerns were handled, they could pressure the Eye to finally address the Surgeborn.
That sounds like an opportunity. And are you a representative yourself? Do you have sway?
Representative, yes. Sway? No. I represent the Scouts, meaning I'm at the meetings, but I don't have the title to back me up. The Scouts were once points like you,
but our role has changed since the Veil went up. We were effectively drafted into scavenging for food and supplies. It made sense following the surge, but it's been years. Recently, we've even been separated from Cassidon's hold and the remaining civilians. Anyway, it's the guild leaders who will need to pressure Khan Stanild into dealing with the Surgeborn. That's where my people need your help the most. Then we can start fixing the deeper issues we face.
Sounds like I've got some palms to grease.
Yuck. But yes, I'll come by your camp later. We'll be able to speak more freely there.
What is that about?
The Eye isn't one for idle chit-chat. That's worth watching.
Talk to you back at our camp.
You got it.
Sev, you all right?
No. I mean, yes. I'm fine.
You sure?
Bryn, the rest of us are heading out. See you back at camp.
I got to go.
Before Asylum, all the loom gates were reset so that the Surgeborn couldn't use them to continue spreading. How did you reconnect to the city?
We tracked down a key swatch to Denevron. Found it in the mayor's home in Poldervale.
Your band is quite resourceful.
Aurea leads one of the most accomplished bands in the Maida. We could learn a lot from one another if we pooled our knowledge.
That is tempting. But the Eye wouldn't be pleased if he caught me speaking to your band any more than I have to. No offense, but I should really get back to work.
Excuse me, but Arakim mentioned you're the Spindle, a leading representative for the High Arcanists.
Oh, yes, that's correct.
We wanted to formally introduce ourselves. I'm Aurea, as you know. This is Darm, our enchanter, and Bryn, our acting point.
We didn't catch your name earlier. Khan?
Just call me Isla. Is there something I can help you with?
We'd actually like to help you. Apparently you want to restore the Arks.
Shh! Not so loud. Sorry, that sounds wonderful, but the Eye won't be happy about us collaborating.
Listen, we can be more discreet. We're not here to cause trouble. We only want to help.
I appreciate that. And you're right. I do want to fix the Arks. More than anything. I just need you to be quiet about it.
Okay. We'll try, but forgive us if our excitement bubbles over and we forget.
It's Darm. He's the one that might forget.
We know that the Arks began malfunctioning after the surge. A select few were even sabotaged. Any idea on what caused the other malfunctions?
Some theories, but nothing solid. Anyone who knew how to create Arks, let alone fix them, died before I was born. I've tinkered with an inactive Ark that's lying near the Grand Gate, but it would make a world of difference if I could study a resonance that was freshly harvested from a great Ark's pattern.
Consider it done.
Bryn's got you covered. She has a knack for harvesting great Archons.
You'll have it in no time.
If you're sure, I certainly would appreciate it. With discretion, of course.
Right.
We've been talking a while. You'd better go.
All this wreckage scattered throughout the room. Why haven't you guys cleaned it up?
Khan Stanild ordered us not to.
And that's because he wants to keep it messy?
Correct. Speaking frankly, my impression is that he wanted any visitors to feel as if we were still in a major state of crisis. Though visitors are few and far between. Upper government officials only, all of whom are working from offices with roofs. We are the lucky few over here, it seems. What a privilege it is to work in a building that is open to the weather. I understand the motivation of wanting to wait until we'd found everyone a place to live. But we achieved that 20 years ago. Thousands of survivors rehomed. And yet, I still have to step over puddles to get to my desk.
I am simply telling you, as the foremost leader of the Enclave, that I don't want you getting distracted.
Can you clarify what you mean by that?
You know exactly what I mean. Eyes down, know your place. Focus on your own problems. Organize your little craftspeople. Keep the wheels of civilized society greased. And don't dare to presume you know better than me.
If you have a problem with my performance, you are welcome to gather feedback from the people who elected me. They may have a clearer understanding of what I bring to the table.
We'll continue this conversation later.
Khan Artme. Allow me to formally introduce you to Bryn, the Weaver Band's point.
You're the Axel, right? Arakim says you're a good person to know.
I am. My given name is Haroon, as Arakim said, but you may refer to me as Khan Artme. It's a pleasure to make your acquaintance, despite the circumstances. And I wish they were better circumstances. The new Surgeborn threat requires us to realign our priorities. Some are a little slower on that than others.
If there's anything we can do to move things along, I'm at your disposal.
What about the supply shortage? I've seen her in combat. She's better than any of us.
What's her help look like? I'd prefer if she could avoid unleashing another apocalypse on us.
If it's supplies you're after, that's not a problem at all. Point me at 'em. I got strong arms. Great for lifting heavy things.
Incredible grip strength, too.
That's something you value. You may need to do a little more than heavy lifting. There's a silver lining to this Surgeborn situation that we're suddenly in a position to take advantage of.
Count me in.
Right. With the Surgeborn unleashed, we're anticipating casualties and damage to our facilities. However, there's a restricted area in the underworks that we lost access to decades ago when the Eye sealed it. The Institute. An arcane laboratory where the Enclave conducted its enchantment research, among other projects. Inside the Institute lies a significant supply cache. Its contents will be enough to keep us going, for the time being. If the notes the previous Axel left me are accurate, though, there's an additional complication.
Of course.
The Surgeborn secure territory by building structures, akin to insect hives. The Institute is likely overrun with them, and has been for 20-odd years.
So, the Surgeborn are a long-standing threat to the Enclave.
I wish I were old enough to remember what it was like to live without the fear of the Surgeborn. As a child, I sat awake every night worrying about them. They were terrifying. Knowing what I know now, I should have been even more scared.
I'm sorry you went through that. It must have been horrible.
Thank you.
All the more reason to actually do something about the problem, instead of spending our lives cowering behind the walls of our glorious fortress.
You'll hear no disagreement from me, now that the game board has been upended.
Sounds like I need to clear any Surgeborn hives from the Institute, then.
That'll thin them out enough that my scouts will be able to access the supply cache without much trouble.
Now that Asylum is lifted, we should be able to access the loom gates in the Institute again. I'm going to trust you with this key swatch. It's been gathering dust for over 25 years.
Only the Eye would let such a crucial resource sit there for that long.
Yes. If we're clear on everything, I'll get back to work. My list of obligations grows by the minute. Someone has to keep this goddamn fortress running.
What's your history here? Have you been the Axel for a long time?
Why do you care?
To pass the time? Get to know you better? We could discover that we're kindred spirits. Become bosom friends.
As good a reason as any. I was elected to this seat 8 years ago. I've done a good enough job to be re-elected.
How's your working relationship with the Eye? Is he your superior?
He would like to think so. His seat casts the final vote when the council cannot make a decision.
But his seat has more power than that.
Khan Stanield wields power beyond the traditional bounds of the Eye's seat, yes. But he is our savior, so surely he must know better than any of us. Which is to say, he is technically the highest-ranked official in the Enclave. But he hasn't faced an election in decades. In contrast, I have, let's call it, popular support.
What made you decide to run for leadership?
My predecessor was incompetent and took bribes. The guild members tolerated it for a time, but eventually enough was enough. The Eye never seemed to have a problem with it, though.
Do you think he's taking bribes?
You really aren't afraid of asking dangerous questions, are you? I personally haven't seen any evidence of his corruption. He believes in his own judgment too much to accept a bribe. It's easier to bribe the lower-level guild members anyway.
Isn't that a bad thing?
The wheels of society must needs be greased. If they do any more than skim a little off the top, I'll come down hard on them. And that's why I've managed to keep my job. Well, part of why, anyway.
So, what does an Axel do all day?
It varies. Some of my predecessors have been very hands-on, as befits a representative of the physical trades. That's not my strong suit, though, so I end up with my beak buried in paperwork. Maintaining supply lines, as it turns out, is considered extremely helpful.
That all makes sense? Thanks for taking a moment to talk.
Let's talk in your camp. I can speak freely there.
So, you.
Me?
The one causing trouble. The one poking into corners. The one who hasn't the good sense to leave well enough alone.
I've never been one to just sit around while the world crumbles.
You're keen to hurry the process along. But I suppose you did apologize for your unfortunate mistake. Let us start afresh, shall we? Please, share what you hope to accomplish by loitering around the hold.
The things I saw pouring out of the underworks are a real problem. It's clear they've been strangling the Enclave all this time. I want to put a stop to them.
The elusive Surgeborn. They are, I will tell you, not so bestial as they seem. There is a cunning in what passes for their eyes. They are dangerous, though perhaps not quite as dangerous as everyone believes.
Meaning?
Meaning you should proceed with caution, and that your confidence in this matter is misplaced.
Like it or not, I'm here to help.
The Enclave stands on a blade's edge. Stretch our resources too thin on risky ventures, and we face collapse. Certain elements of our population call for action, for bold purpose. And I ask you, what purpose is bolder than survival?
Well...
Purely rhetorical. We must survive, and we must make considered, careful moves if we are to do so. There is no sacrifice too great towards that goal. You, at least, understand the precarity of our situation. Now understand the necessity of our caution.
I do, but...
Thank you for your time. You may go.
But...
You may go. Need I remind you that your access to Cassidon's hold is restricted?
Oh. I didn't mean to intrude.
You would do well to mind yourself, newcomer, or risk losing the privilege of coming to Cassidon's hold entirely.
So, warrior, what do you make of the Enclave Council?
Their living history. What they've seen, what knowledge they must have preserved. All this time, they've been here, holding down the fort. It's great you've offered to help the Axle and the Spindle. Just be careful you're not going over the Eye's head.
I get it. I'll watch out. We're here to work together, not make enemies.
That's good to hear. He's led the Enclave during a crisis. The rules change. He knows more about the Surge, the Enclave, and arguably even magic. Because while we've been outcasts, he's been here, at the heart of our culture. It's something we need to respect.
I'll try.
Good.
Hey, you all right?
Yes. There's something I should have told you, so I'll just come out and say it. I was born in the Enclave.
How is that possible?
Oh, luck or tragedy, depending on your perspective. Before I was born, my mother and father lived here happily for several years. But they decided it would be better if my mother raised me with my grandmother and great-aunts for the first few months of my life. So she left with me when I was just a hatchling, with every intention to return.
But the Surge happened.
The life I should have had was lost for good. Because of all this, I never knew my father. I don't even know his name.
Does your family have something to do with your attachment to the Enclave?
Being here has meant a lot in some ways, and in others, it's very different from what I expected. Meeting the Hearthsiders was a lifelong dream, but the circumstances of our encounter, not what I'd envisioned.
Knowing now that this is your birthplace, I can see why that would be disheartening.
This was meant to be my home, after all.
Isn't it a little strange your mother never told you his name?
She was separated from him so suddenly. She had no chance to say goodbye. My mother is a strong woman, but whenever I asked about him as a child, she could only manage a few words before her face would crumble. She found it too painful to discuss. and I never wanted to pry.
But now?
I can't help but wish I knew who he was.
Is it common for Oberon hatchlings to be raised apart from their fathers?
No, but it is common for extended family to be involved in the raising of children. As you know, I come from a long line of weavers, many of whom traveled in caravans their entire lives. It was apparently quite a shock when my mother fell for a Hearthsider.
So your parents were looking for a compromise when it came to raising you?
Exactly. And I wouldn't trade my childhood on the road. My great-aunts and my grandmother made me who I am, after all.
Still, you missed out on your father. It's natural to wonder about him.
I suppose.
This is definitely a twist. I feel like you could have told me sooner.
I am sorry for that.
Good morning.
You need to be able to trust me.
So why hide it?
Talking about difficult and private matters is not my strong suit. And frankly, I rarely see the point in dwelling on the past.
I guess you and your mother have that in common.
Huh. You might be right.
So, we're going to find out who your father was.
You would help me?
Of course. Maybe Lane would have some ideas on where to start.
Actually, I had an idea myself. The spindle mentioned a statue of my mother. It's clear the Enclave commemorated their champions. I can't shake this feeling my father is among them.
You think there's a statue of your father?
You're welcome, of course.
I know it sounds strange, but the handful of times that my mother spoke of him, she described him as this great hero. Since she was one herself, is it so crazy to think she might have meant that literally?
Maybe not. I can scope out the statues in Upper Denevron for a resemblance, if that's what you want.
Good. And thank you.
Aurea, I'm curious. Why the sudden interest in finding out more about your father?
He was trapped in the Enclave my entire life. This is the first chance I actually have to find out who he was.
Right. But I guess what I mean is, you really never tried to find out more from your mother.
I always had this sense that it wasn't something she could discuss. There was a heaviness in the air when his name came up. She was in love with him. And then she lost him in this cataclysmic event that no one could have predicted.
That must have been unimaginably painful.
Yes. She wasn't a tragic figure, though. She carried it well. You'd never know she was in pain. And truthfully, I had such a good life with my mother and my grandmother. It wasn't like I felt he was missing.
Until now.
Until we arrived here, yes. Something about this place just makes it clear how much I've lost because of the surge.
Being here makes me wonder. If the surge hadn't happened, would I have been forced to leave home to become a weaver?
Most certainly not. You would have been a valued member of society, not an outcast. Did you have a good relationship with your mother?
I have a lot of respect for her. She's such a powerful leader. And I know she's not exactly happy with my life choices.
You're afraid you've let her down?
Yeah. I hope whatever I accomplish here might make up for it, though.
My mother and I had our ups and downs throughout my life, too. As daughters get older, we understand our mothers better.
Any chance our mothers understand us better with age, too?
She'll come around to the weaving, if that's what you're worried about. She loves you, after all.
She does. I know that much.
The Hearthsiders look more traumatized than a beast of burden after a hurricane.
What? Why would you say that?
I would think someone who grew up in the wake of war would recognize the signs. Disorganized and unable to triage their own problems. They're overwhelmed. Suspicious of us despite our clear good intentions, suggesting paranoia. And while their leader is in deep denial of the very real crisis the Enclave is in, the others accept it. They've been stewing in turmoil for so long, it's become their new normal. And it's probably more comfortable for them than the prospect of change.
You're right. They do remind me of some veterans back in Carnhaven.
Saw it 1,000 times over while working in Udea. Aurea may not want to hear it, but these people are completely lost in their crisis.
I spoke to Aurea earlier. She certainly does want to give the Eye the benefit of the doubt. I'm not so sure it's warranted.
Aurea has a case of hero worship when it comes to the Enclave. She can be blinded by it sometimes.
Huh.
It's not to say great things didn't happen here. But at the end of the day, the Hearthsiders aren't gods. They're fallible. Just like us. Bryn, I'm glad you're here. I need to talk to you.
What's going on? You look pretty tired.
Yeah, I'm fine. It's just... about those 90 Drake scales. I know Aurea said we don't need them, but she just doesn't understand. It's dangerous out here, you know? Especially now that these Surgeborn are loose. We need to be prepared for anything. It's just gnawing in the back of my head. Do you think you could do it?
You haven't told me why we need them. Or better yet, why we need 90.
We want the best gear and weapons, don't we?
So Sola asked for these?
Not exactly. They have other uses too.
Seriously, when's the last time you slept?
Kashar don't need as much sleep as Ashar or Casil.
But you need some sleep.
It's been a while. Maybe 10 days. Or a week. I'm fine.
I'm guessing Aurea doesn't know you want me to go Drake hunting. Do you really think it's a good idea for us to go behind her back?
It looks bad, but she just doesn't see what I'm seeing.
To be honest, I'm not sure I see it either.
Please, just trust me.
Kaz, you need to tell me what's really going on here. I want to help, but the Drake scales? The Weaver Band is okay. More than okay. We're in the best shape we've been in since we entered the Enclave, now that we've made contact with the Hearthsiders. Besides, the caravan is looking pretty full. It's not making sense.
You think I'm insane?
No, of course not.
Era's breath. I shouldn't have brought this up. Ugh. But you just don't understand. Everyone could die if I don't... It would be my fault.
Whatever this is, please just tell me what's going on.
No. I shouldn't have burdened you. Sorry, just... go.
But Kaz...
I can't talk about this anymore.
Casmin is not okay. And I don't think bringing her more stuff is the answer. I'd better talk to Aurea. Kaz, you know you can talk to us about what's going on, right?
Nothing's going on. I'm fine, I promise.
You don't seem fine, though.
It's just... no one seems to understand how important the Ashpeak Drake skills are, and... bad things are going to happen if we don't... You know what? I just can't talk about this right now. I'm sorry.
Hey, Aurea. About Casmin.
I know. I'm worried too. So is the rest of the band. Let's talk at the archive, privately. I'll join you and Lane in a moment.
All right.
That wasn't exactly the warmest welcome. I'm guessing the Enclave Council isn't your biggest fan right now.
What's not to like? So I let some nasty creatures loose. There's no bad impression my charms can't overcome.
And if they fail you now, there's a first for everything.
Then I'll roundhouse kick those Surgeborn back to the Underworks.
Whatever the Council thinks of you, I'm glad you're trying to help them. I think they could really use it.
Yeah. They don't seem to be in great shape.
Nothing our daring point can't fix.
And then, Sev and I realized we might be able to repurpose the Carapace for more than just loom gates.
Uh-huh.
Purely theoretical right now, but I'm contemplating tangle-resistant gear, or even a protective layer around the caravan.
Dom, I'm a little busy trying to look over these Tarmakine schematics again. Do you mind coming back later?
Oh, okay. You're right. We can discuss theoretical magic anytime. I'll leave you to your work.
Oh. Hey, Bryn.
Everything all right? Things between you and Dom seem off lately.
Yeah, a bit. I'm not sure he understands what my work on the Tarmakine smithing techniques means to me.
Have you told him how you're feeling?
It feels like he's so wrapped up in his own discoveries that he's not hearing me.
He is easily distracted, but maybe you should try again. If there's one thing I know about Dom, it's that he loves you. He must care about your feelings.
Then why isn't he asking about them? Sorry, this isn't on you. I'm just frustrated. I need to do more than just tell him what Tarmakine means to me.
How so?
I need to show him. By investigating Tarmakine practices, maybe I can make some headway on restoring these techniques. Then he'll understand.
Hey, I'm always down to investigate lost knowledge. Especially in the name of love.
You'll help me?
Of course.
Amazing. I'll ask the Axel if she knows anything about Tarmakine smithing in the Enclave.
Great idea. I'll meet you at Cassidon's Hold.
Okay, then I'm gonna take a break for 30 minutes and I'll be back. Just need to take a shower, make some coffee.
When's the last time anyone saw her sleep?
It's been weeks.
So yeah, roughly 30 minutes, nothing more.
No.
Max 40. Yeah, I say max 40. Between 30 and 40 minutes. Just do my morning things. Okay. Thank you for all the likes. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate all the support. It do help me tons. Because yeah, the issues I had with the YT are yeah, it's been hard, but I will get there. But they make it very hard for I would say no reason at all, but then again, I'm gonna get there, and I will say we will get there. So again, thank you for all the support, for watching, the likes, interactions. But I will catch you afterwards, and I wish you all a good morning, day, possibly a good night for those who goes to sleep. And I catch you later. Ciao, ciao.